Hello, my name is Alice Herring, and I'm a student at the Masters of Library and Information Science program at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, located in Greensboro, North Carolina in the United States. I welcome you to the first meeting of the Library and Information Science Student Voices Global Peer-to-Peer Dialogue, an initiative of the Building Strong Library and Information Science Education Working Group of the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions. BSLISE was initiated by the IFLA sections on education and training and library theory and research and VLIS Education in Developing Countries Special Interest Group. The BSLISE working group is pursuing the development of an international quality assurance framework that will guide and promote international education standards in LIS. Its work considers the socio-political and technological developments that are inclusive of local and regional contexts. In 2020, BSLISE launched the Student Spotlight Project, and today you will meet two students that were participants of this project, as well as the initiator of the Student Spotlight Project. But first, let's watch a video from the co-chairs of the BSLISE working group, Clara Chu and Jaya Raju. They have prepared a brief introduction for us.
Greetings, I'm Clara Chu, co-chair of the IFLA Building Strong LIS Education Working Group. Welcome to the Library and Information Science Student Voices, Global Peer-to-Peer Dialogue.
Hello, I'm Jaya Raju, co-chair of the BSLISE. We are glad that you are participating in this global initiative where LIS students share experiences, engage ideas, and express opinions about LIS education and the profession.
Connect, be challenged, and inspired.
Enjoy.
Thank you, Clara and Jaya.
That you are participating in this group.
I'll get it. This event is being recorded, including the chat. Video will be posted on YouTube, and the link will be posted on the section on Education and Training webpage and social media, Facebook and Instagram. Microphones have been muted for this event. Questions or comments, please type those into the Q&A box. The talk is GDPR compliant. IFLA and Zoom privacy policies are located at the addresses shown below, and questions regarding privacy may be addressed to professional support at ifla.org. Please feel free to share the published recording with anyone who is interested but was unable to attend. The aim of the Peer Global Dialogue is to connect LIS students all over the world to communicate and discuss the present and future of the LIS field. We hope it will become a platform to highlight experiences, engage ideas, and express opinions about LIS education and the profession. Today, I have with me some fellow Library and Information Science students. Brendan Letran, a graduate of the Kent State University in the United States, Elena Katina, a student at St. Petersburg State University of Culture in Russia, and Amanda Thompson, a graduate of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro in the United States. Amanda is the initiator of the Student Spotlight Project that sparked the development of this peer dialogue. Also joining us on the panel are Dr. Albina Krymskaya of the LIS Department at the St. Petersburg State University of Culture in Russia, and Dr. Barbara Marson of the LIS Department of East Carolina University in the United States. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
First, I would like to ask our guests a few questions about their LIS education experience. When we've completed the interview portion of this session, I'll open the floor for questions and comments. As we go, please feel free to submit your questions or remarks in the Q&A box. When we finish the interview, we'll go ahead and read those out and let our speakers answer them. To avoid confusion, let's go ahead and set the response order to each of the questions. So if we would respond, Brendan first, Elena, and then Amanda for each one of these. And just a couple of minutes, brief responses so that we can be, in the interest of time, paying attention to that. So question 1, if you would each please introduce yourself, give the school that you currently attend or attended, what degree and program you are or were enrolled in, and how far along you are. If you've graduated, please let us know when that was.
Since I'm starting, my name is Brendan Letran. I was a MLIS student at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio, United States. I have graduated. I graduated December 2020. Don't really, I think that was it, right, Alice? Degree? Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I pass it off to my other fellow speakers.
Thanks, Brendan. Elena?
Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Katina, and I'm a bachelor and master graduated student. And now I am a PhD student of the Library Information Science Department of the St. Petersburg State University from Culture. Hello, everyone from Russia, St. Petersburg. And thank you for an invitation to this great project.
Thank you, Elena. Amanda?
Hi, my name is Amanda Thompson. I am an MLIS graduate from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. I graduated last July. And for what it's worth, I got a job 2 months later as a librarian. So
that's what you were trying to do. So great. Thanks, everyone. For question 2, can you tell us a little bit about why each of you chose to study library and information science? Brendan?
The reason why I chose to study library and information science is an interesting story, but it's too long for this point. Basically, what had happened was I was in another program at Kent State, and I was on their assistantship bill, so I was being waived tuition and I was being paid a stipend. And in order for the stipend to work, they needed to give me a project to work on. And they gave me a project in which they wanted an inventory sheet of their theater props in a storage facility off-site. I said, all right, I'll do it. One thing led to another. It kind of snowballed and expanded just because I wanted to do a good job. I eventually ended up making a database complete with its own metadata schema and platform in order to organize a digital representation of these theater props. I only discovered later on when I did transfer, because I realized I'm like, wow, I'm really good at this. Is this a degree in anything? It was like, this is LIS. I'm like, awesome. Is there a program nearby so I don't have to move? Like, we got one of the best ones right here. I'm like, awesome, sign me up. It was only, but then, and then I got a job with inside one of the branch libraries, and I got another job with inside the main library, technical services and cataloging. And I discovered when I showed the database to my supervisor at the time, she informed me, Brendan, you sort of made your own mini integrated library system. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, man, it's like, have you ever done anything to library and information? I'm like, nope, I just kind of did what came naturally. And yeah, that was that. So really, I joined it because it seemed to be, I seemed to be successful at it. I seemed to be good at it. After I did some research into the employment prospects for LIS students, I realized I can probably make a really good amount of money. I could be more independent on it. And I decided that that was a better decision to do than to continue on with the degree that I originally had came to Kent State for. So, and now I'm done.
Found your home. Excellent. Elena?
Yeah, when I was a school graduate, I communicated with our school librarian, and he told me a lot of the information and about information literacy, safety, and I understood in 2014 that information and LIS field is one of the most developing in our society, and I decided to choose LIS bachelor program in 2014, and I was very inspired by our department and by our LIS school. And when I was a bachelor graduated, I understand that if I want to be a great LIS specialist, I need to go to the master program, and 6 years on the LIS department gave me a lot of the opportunities, not only during the educational process, but also in volunteering activity, in international cooperation, in sport and cultural events, projects. And now I'm really excited, and I'm very happy that now I'm a PhD student, because our department is like my second home for 7 years. And I also have information about our department. It has the same color as my jacket, and I think it's okay, because I really like my department, and I hope that I will become a great information specialist in the future. And I will advise for all my friends to become librarians, because when I was a school graduate, I often heard about, why do you want to be a librarian? There are a lot of stereotypes about librarians, and I decided that I want to destroy it, and I'm trying. That's why.
Those are good reasons. Thank you. Amanda?
I would love to say that like I grew up wanting to be a librarian, and then I just became this like the dream, but that is so not what happened. It really was just kind of happenstance. I got a master's in English literature before I got my MLIS, because I thought I was gonna be like a doctorate in 17th century drama. But the reality is the field is basically non-existent, and I didn't want to deal with that, and I was tired. So I got a job in a library close to where my parents live, and I promoted pretty quickly, and I was so resistant to it at first. I was like, this isn't it, this can't be it, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I just kind of realized, okay, this is good, because in a way I'm in a public library, and you get to do a lot of, I joke, I'm a children's librarian now, but one thing I kind of joke is like, I'm often paid to be myself in certain respects, because I like to learn about new books and new ideas, and the technology is constantly changing, and just helping so many different types of people. And then you get to talk to kids who are always silly, and I get to kind of, bring out those things that I enjoy and bring them into my job. So whether it's books or art projects or animals, I get to have all of that in my job, and I don't have to like go to work at like a zoo or something to do that. So that's pretty amazing for me. And I looked into UNCG and I really liked the message for the program, and I liked that it was a program where you would have to log in and actually engage with your classmates. It wasn't just in your inbox, here's your homework, get it done by this day. There was interaction, and then also that little extra accountability, because you have to engage and you have to show up, and that I think helped me maintain some structure while I was working full time as well. So it's been a really good fit, and I'm always very suspicious of things that I'm like that I'm good at. But like, yeah, I mean, when I graduated in July, I got a job offer, and everything was good and by September, and so I guess I'm doing okay with it.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that. We all know, and of course we're LIS professionals and students here, we all know that there are a lot of different types of libraries and different types of library jobs that you can get into. So my question number 3 is, throughout your program, what has been your focus or your area of interest in library and information sciences? Where do you want your career to go for that? Brendan?
Well, I kind of tried to catch all as much as I could. The idea of me joining the MLIS program was relatively new. It really never really crossed my mind that it would be anything that I would do career-wise. Although now that I'm thinking about it, I did meet about a year prior with a career advisor, and I thought, well, why don't I just work at a library? I was like, you need a master's degree for that. I'm like, never mind. And then sure enough, I actually called him after I enrolled and got accepted. I'm like, Bob, I'm getting an MLIS. I'm like, funny stance. I'm like, yeah. I guess what I focused in on the first couple of semesters in my program was akin to what I did with the database. So I focused in on cataloging standards, metadata, database architecture, and then later on, later on, I think it was after the second semester, I realized that there was something else that I was always interested in, and I started trying to find ways of learning work in special libraries, specifically with inside government agencies, namely with national intelligence, working towards that. Unfortunately, the the fates somehow kept cutting me at the knees every time that I tried to enroll in any one of the courses that were offered at the time that had anything to do with it. Either there was low enrollment or they were just canceled or not available. So I'm like, well, I got nothing for that. So I just kind of started taking in some other stuff. I took courses in reference librarianship. I was always interested in looking for information, answering questions along those lines. And then I also took a course on social informatics, which is helping me support in a research paper that I'm working on with a few other, or with other knowledge management and LIS professors currently. And then I guess the metadata and the database architecture has kind of led me to get my current career as a taxonomist consultant. So, you know, the world works in mysterious ways.
Great. Elena.
Well, as I said, I've been training at the LS department for 7 years, and for this time I have two key directions in my interests. One of them is scientific interest. It's a topic about internationalization of higher education and international cooperation. And the second one is volunteering activity. And the first direction, it's a long way from the bachelor scientific researches, my bachelor dissertation, my master dissertation, and my PhD dissertation were about internationalization of higher education. But I'm also interested in volunteering activity, And since 2018, I've been a leader of the volunteering squad Postman of Goodness. And it consists of LIS students from different courses, and we initiate a social project. It was called the Day of Intellectual Donation, because we are interested in promoting reading, promoting library profession and books among young children, because I think that book, it's a first information resource for a child, and if he knows how to read, how to work with information, how to develop intellectually, it will help him on the different levels of his education and in his future life. And we initiated about 60 projects with public children libraries of the St. Petersburg, and we also work with children hospitals. And the main idea of our project is to create special book shelters in hospitals for children's intellectual development. And the base of our project is IFLA professional documents about first libraries in hospitals. So thanks to IFLA, I can develop this activity. And also, I think volunteering activity is a key to the tolerant society. And I think these two directions is are also important. Internationalization is important for tolerant society, and tolerant society is important for internationalization of higher education and also international cooperation.
Great. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do.
Yeah.
Amanda? I think Amanda is frozen up. We'll give her a second. She might need to log off and log back on to get back in. We'll move along with question 4 and see if we can catch back up with Amanda when her technical difficulties resolve. So in question 4, I think that we had a little bit of information about this in the first couple of questions, but if you could give a little more detail maybe about what types of practical or professional experience in LIS you might have had before you decided to enter the LIS program. Go ahead, Brendan.
I'm not too sure about any prior experience that may have informed or influenced my decision towards it. I think for me, I'm not sure about the other panelists. For me, I think it stemmed from my love of reading and my love of information and knowledge since I was very young. Apparently, I learned. I think I was reading from a very young age. I think I've always been fascinated or had a passion for knowledge for itself and to improve society and to help towards that. As far as, I guess that would have to be more of a personal influence or impact on that decision. As far as professional, I did work 2 years in a Barnes & Noble branch, a retail book chain for people that are not in the US. And was good at that, and I liked doing that because I liked books and I just like being around them. And then I go back to the project for the prop database. For me, it was just, I think I just thought about it for a while. Like I remember when I first got it, they said like, we just want a spreadsheet. And the minute that I stepped out of the room, I'm like, I do not want to be staring at a spreadsheet for 8 hours trying to build this thing up. I'm going to go cross-eyed. But then from that spark, I kind of just started to mull it over. I'm like, what do they really need this spreadsheet for? I'm like, there's problems about accountability for who has what. How many do we have? What is their, what are the props and furniture's like state? Are they in bad repair? Is there pain? Is there damage? How many are there? And who has what? Where is it? Who's responsible for it? And the more I kept thinking about that, I just without even really, I think I consulted once with a librarian that was nearby, because I think in my mind I was thinking, I'm like, no, I think I settled that this isn't going to be a spreadsheet, this is going to be a database. I'm like, I have no idea how to make a database. I don't know square one of doing any of that. And I think that's when I first reached out to a librarian that was inside the building of where I worked and said, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Do you have any idea what this would be or how to do it? And, you know, she got me in contact with people, and, you know, they offered me solutions, and most of them were complicated. Most of the solutions involved a very high level of experience and knowledge about computer programming, SQL, and Access. And I'm like, I don't have time to learn this. I only got like 2 months to put something together before I'm done. So then I just did my own research, and I found, you know, I just realized, I'm like, I have a mission and I need to solve the problem or solve the puzzle, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. And I remember when I first presented the database, like in its first state, everybody was blown away. They were like, we were expecting an Excel like document, and I'm like, no. And I remember I set forth my case. I'm like, they're not going to want a database. They don't even, what the heck are they going to do with a database? They're just going to want a sheet. I'm like, no. We want a database. A database is good. A database is dynamic. A database is organic. People can access the database simultaneously without having to go into Google Drive. We can change it and change everything if I create relations, because then at that point I knew what a relational database was. I'm like, this is what we're going to make. And then from there, I just started building off of my knowledge of theater props and history and carpentry and wood shop and all this other stuff to help inform what kind of metadata we would need from there. So for me, I guess I kind of got lost with that question there for a little bit, but my professional experience prior to me joining into it was really just what I had with me in my head, and then just applying it to the problem that, for whatever reason, was a LIS problem. And for whatever reason, by the grace of God, it just happened to be something that my faculties, my intelligence, my skill sets, and aptitudes were best attuned towards. So I just said, okay, let me grow this, let me foster this into a viable career option. Because I knew that I knew that, you know, working where I was, it wasn't going to work out. I'm like, I need to come up with something. That was like another thing that I joked around saying, like, desperation was the key factor of me joining the MLIS program, because I had nothing else after that. So again, by the grace of God, like within 2 months, I figured out what I want to do, how I'm going to do it, and what my future is in store for me. So that was I guess that would be the long answer to that question. I'm afraid I feel like I may have like gone off on a tangent there a little bit, but
Okay,
that's what I believe.
that's okay. I feel like in my experience, it's kind of a long rambling process to get into it. I don't know anybody who goes directly
Yeah,
from school into library school. It's something you
yeah,
find.
yeah. I don't know a lot of people that actually went into it like straight, like from the get-go. Like a lot of people have degrees in wildly different subjects, and then they go into LIS because they're not aware of LIS. Because I wasn't even aware there was a degree for LIS. I just figured somebody volunteers and they stayed in the library for so long that they become a librarian. That was my like young kid child vision of what it was, until later on when I discovered it, I'm like, oh, this is an actual degree. I'm like, great,
Right.
put me in. So yeah.
Thank you, Brendan. Let's let Elena answer question 4, and then welcome back, Amanda. We will catch you up on both question 3 and 4 here in just a minute. Again, Elena, what sorts of practical professional experience in LIS did you have before you entered your program?
Yeah, if in the past I was a school graduate, I didn't have any experience in LIS field except my visits to the library, my participating in library events, but I always wanted to become a part of it. And if I say about my professional experience, like a PhD student, of course, yes, I have. And it's not only about theoretical courses, but also it's about my practice in volunteering activity, in cultural activity and international cooperation. For example, we have an international festival, International LIS Festival, Bibliofest. And when I was a bachelor student, I participated in some projects and events. And later I became an organizer of some LIS events. And these events were created in the professional context with public libraries. And it gave me a lot of experience, opportunities, and professional contacts. And I think it's one of the good sides in your professional experience to communicate with LIS librarians, with LIS professionals who are interested in LIS activity, who can inspire you. And because of the LIS department opportunities, such as in our festival Bibliofest, our volunteering activity, and our, for example, visits to the libraries, we had like excursions. When I was a first-year student, we visited a lot of the libraries of our city, and it's very hard to understand what should librarians do every day. But when you organize some events, you can come, you can communicate, you can see library inside and outside, and it's very interesting for you who start your professional career. And when you become older, you can see some interesting aspects which you couldn't see when you was a first-year student. But when you are older, you can see more, you know more, and after that you have a great professional experience, your professional portfolio, and you can present it for your employer, for example, and it will present your interest in LIS field and your experience.
Excellent. Thank you. And just to remind Amanda what the 2 questions are that she gets to answer on this round. Question number 3 was to talk a little bit about your area of interest in your LIS program. What types of libraries and what types of library work did you focus on? And then question 4 is to describe any practical or professional experience in LIS that you had prior to entering the program.
Gotcha. Awesome. First of all, I am so sorry. That's showbiz, right? So before I got into my, so in my program, I focused a lot. I did some academic focus as well as, I did a couple, I know I was interested in doing something with archives. I still would someday, I think working in a museum library would be really interesting for me. However, I'm in the public library and that's good too. I've been pretty adaptable with that. And I guess, but perhaps probably like the biggest takeaway that I had from my LIS education was the open education and open access movements. And those have been things that I think I've been able to kind of bring into my public library setting, even though sometimes there's some reticence about it. They're like, but it's open. And I'm like, no, but this is really good. This is really important. So just, I think, and having, especially after this past year, like seeing the limitations to access that so many people have, and that you just really, I mean, it's profound how much people do not have access to things, and there shouldn't be so many barriers, whether it's something as simple as a hotspot or, just an article that they need, that has the information that they need. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, is just the way to get the information, get the correct information to as many people as possible who want it, frankly. Not everybody wants it. So I would, and then practical experience, I was an intern when I was in grad school. I did a school librarianship internship at my campus, and I decided that obviously I don't think that school librarianship wasn't for me. I respect it, it's cool, wasn't where I wanted to be. I worked in my public library. I started in 2016, and then 2018 started school, because I wanted to, for myself personally, I wanted to get a full-time job before committing to the degree, just because I know it can be a competitive field, and I wanted to really prove to myself that I could move up in the ranks, so to speak, without the degree. And also just because, frankly, the non-degreed professional positions, you're doing librarian jobs, you're doing the work of a librarian, you're just not being paid like one. So being able to have that and say, hey, well, I'm already doing this, so there you go, I think that was incredibly helpful. And it gave me, I think, before I even got into my classes, I was able to see what it's like working with the public in a lot of different directions. You get experience with cataloging structures and organizing procedures, and then of course the ethical decisions, where I think it's fascinating just how many ethical decisions we make in a day. Is kind of mind-boggling when you realize what you're doing, as far as you're just going, it's wow. But so that was very, I think, yes, I too just rambled, because it's a big story with a lot of ideas going on. But for me, it was just it was important for me to cement myself into a position and kind of prove prove that I could already do it, and just for myself and for my own security purposes. And I think that really did shape my education and how I understood things, and my ability to kind of grasp subjects, and not have a romantic view of libraries, because yes, they're wonderful, but there are also very difficult sides to it. There are things that are not as fun, that are not, magical and bells swinging around on the ladder in the library. Like, that's just not it. So, I think having that in my background before I even started school was really helpful. And I think it really kind of set me apart from peers that maybe did not have that experience.
Great, thanks. And just one last question, and real quick, what is one thing that you think is important for new LIS students to know as they start their own program journey? Brendan?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question again?
What is one thing that you think is important for new LIS students to know as they start their own program?
I would say there's a lot of answers that I could put in here, but I would say that the one thing you need to, I would say you need to come to grips with the reality of the world on a whole. You need to come to grips with it. For me, in my experience, I was not I did not have a grip on what the world would have in store for me before I got into the program. It was a hellish landscape. And it was only made more clear and better when I realized that the world is going to knock you down multiple times. It's not going to let up in any sort of way. But for me, what I always recommend, or what I always try to preach in a way, is that finding your meaning, finding the reason through, your career, through what you're doing, through what you're passionate about. Maybe not what you, well, let me redact that. Maybe not what you're passionate about, but something that you can be, hold on. Something that can support you independently is extremely important in life, I would say. LIS allowed me to do that. Now, I am not working in the traditional library setting. I did beforehand, but I had one professor say to me when I spoke with them, was like, I can't see you working in an actual library like circulation desk. I'm like, yeah, no, I don't think it's really for me. So one of the other things I would say is that, don't limit yourself. LIS is an extremely flexible degree and that you can do a lot with. The problem is, like, depending on where you are, like in the United States, it's slightly more difficult. Not a lot of people realize exactly that they need information professionals. Maybe not librarians, but on a broader sense, they don't think they need knowledge workers, and it takes a lot of convincing to do. Yeah, I see Amanda nodding her head to that. But my advice is that you need to be persistent. You need to be open to the opportunities, and don't worry too much about things that you do not have any control over. The only thing, and I've read a lot of the Stoic philosophers from ancient times. The only thing that you have absolute 100% control over is you and your reactions. Trying to change the world is not going to happen. It's way too vast. It's way too complicated. Focus on yourself. When something bad happens to you, don't worry too much about it and just follow through, reformat, re-strategize, and go after it. Because when the pandemic happened, I lost both of my jobs like that within a week. I'm like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But because I've already been through like that kind of place, I'm like, this is nothing. I got this. I'm like, the game, I'm not out yet. I'm not losing. I may have stumbled a little bit, but moving forward and keeping that goal in mind and being open to the possibilities, be creative, think outside the box. Like I said, I'm not in the traditional library setting. I'm not a traditional librarian. I'm a consultant working in the private sector. Like, you would never ever think of a librarian doing that. Like, mostly when you're growing up, you just think of the librarian stays in the library. I'm like, Not so. Like I said, flexibility is key for that. So in short, you know, don't worry about things that you have no control over. Worry about your own self and be open to the possibilities, be open to flexible situations and outcomes, and realizing what exactly is your end goal too. That's another huge thing to have. Have the ambition, have the goal. That way it'll help you, it'll lead you through the darker parts. Maybe not through the, well, maybe through the program. You might have some hard classes or hard teachers or what have you. I don't know. I wouldn't say those are dark parts of your life, but having that goal in mind will help you get through it, I would say.
Thanks, Brendan. Elena, one thing you think is important for new LIS students?
I think it's important to say for new LIS students that LIS professional is a powerful person in our life. And if someone has an idea that it's not true, kick these thoughts out from your mind and try to destroy this stereotype. You should be inspired, you should be engaged to the LIS activity, you should choose your professional way and follow to it. And you also should use all the opportunities from your LIS department, your LIS school. And one of the most important is to be thankful to your colleagues, your students, your mentor, your LIS professions, and to the LIS field that you can be involved in it now, in the past, and in the future, I hope.
Great, thanks. Amanda, one thing.
I would probably personally say before the most important thing that I have suggested to people who are interested in going into the LIS field, like Brendan mentioned, it is a huge field. It is very prolific. So it's really to your benefit to investigate what that means, because there are so many different ways to be a librarian, and it means so many different things. And I'm sure we all experience this when we tell, like, I'm constantly telling people about my job and they go, really? In both good ways and bad ways, because that's just life. And you kind of have to, I think I joked a little bit earlier, but you kind of have to get past, there's an idea, like, it's kind of like that whole expectation versus reality thing. So yes, it's great to love books and it's good to help people, but the reality is, I think there is this, I think a lot of people think that we just hide in a corner and we're introverted and scared people who just sit and want to read books all day. And nothing wrong with being introverted, obviously, or reading or being cold all the time, because I'm cold all the time. But you do.
All of this is true.
Yes, but you do need to be comfortable talking to people. You have to be comfortable going into outreach settings, whether you are, I know archivists who have to talk to people and who teach classes, and you have to have, and there are certain things that you have to do. Like, I never in a million years would have been comfortable jumping around with 2-year-olds, yet here we find ourselves. So you just have to, I think you have to be ready for those things and understand that that's what it's going to be before you go into your program. And or even start fostering those experiences while you're in your program, because I really believe that they need to coexist. Like, one cannot necessarily exist very well without the other. I know for me personally, my job, I think my school would have been very hypothetical for me. But that's, for me, there are some people who could just go to school and then do the job, never having done it before, and they would have been fine. I'm not that person. I liked having the marriage of both. And I think it's just been to the advantage of making me better as a librarian and kind of spokesperson for the position, for the career, really, is just being able to, and with this pandemic, we don't even know what libraries are going to look like in 10 years, 20 years. So the ability to say, I've got this degree and I've worked in it too, I think is going to be just crucial for people.
Great, thank you. And that is all the questions that I have, and we're running a little close in time, so we've got several in the Q&A box. And I'm gonna pick a few and read them out, and if we could just give a quick, concise answer, and maybe just one of you to respond to the questions at this point as we go, just so that we don't run over our time on this. There are several really good ones in here. I don't know if any of you guys have had a chance to keep up with them, but you guys are asking some good questions. Great. The first question that we have is from Boris, and he wanted to ask, what do you think is the importance of having skills in metadata in the workplaces? For that, so whoever wants to pick up that one to answer. He asked for all speakers, but we could go on about that one, I think.
Since I think that question may have stemmed from my own experience, I guess I'll take it. With what I realized with metadata, or the importance of it, is that it helps with standardizing the language of a business, especially nowadays. A lot of like startups, a lot of corporations nowadays have a very loosey-goosey, organic, like woo, hippie kind of a thing. That's fine. I believe it's like it's the agile landscape, especially for software development. Though I think it can be applicable to different types of businesses. But it fosters like informal communications. The problem with that is that everyone speaks differently within inside a business. And when you have that, you have miscommunication, you have tacit information being lost to the sands of time because somebody didn't write it down. And it doesn't help with the knowledge base, the overall knowledge base of the business, whatever it may be, because it's not standard. A lot of people, like I'm sure they make jokes like that sounds like a boomer kind of talk, like nowadays we're all free. I'm like no. The whole point of this is to organize, and when you need to organize, you need to think hierarchically. You need to put values into certain things and values not into things. So I think metadata is extremely important. The problem, as I said before, the problem is in America, it's not something that's very crucial. A former professor of mine has stated that ideas and knowledge have not been brought up to the big table at the top of the building yet. And that's a huge problem in America, because a lot of the times knowledge gets lost. You have problems with people that just don't know something, and it will cause reputation damage. It will cost expenses, yada, yada, yada. So I think metadata is extremely important. Unfortunately, I just don't think, at least on my end in the Western culture, I just don't think it's evolved yet to be recognized inside the private sector, at least.
Thanks, Brandon. Here's another good one. We've got someone who's asked, what is the difference between your study and your workplace? How do you handle the workload and balance between the dream and the reality? Who wants to pick that one up? Elena?
Yeah, shortly, I think if you have an experience in libraries when you are a student and you get a theoretical and you get a theory from the courses, you will understand that it's very interesting and in theory and in practice. Of course, If you're a practical librarian, you know more, but if you use some advantages, some opportunities, for example, you can visit a library event, you can organize a library event, or maybe you can go to the foreign country and see what foreign libraries do for their users. You will understand the real situation in the LIS field, and this distance between your dream and between your reality, it will it will be easier to understand it to you. And I think LIS field it's real dream, and dreams come true.
Great. And I think that we have just about time for one last question, and there's a good one here. How well do you feel that your program prepared you for the future? Amanda?
I feel like mine really did, because we do a lot of there are a lot of conversations now probably about just kind of reality, and I know I did community informatics as well, and just talking about how many different types of people you're going to interact with, and what it means to help somebody, and being objective in your reviewing of resources. Really big fan of the CRAP test, and just and I think having talking about that is, I think, such a big deal. And I had classes on things like makerspace, which are things that are something that has a very large meaning, and there's a lot of that still going on in it, but all over, be it public or academic settings. And I think what was good about my educational background was that I felt like everything was relevant. It was talking about things that matter. It was talking about collections for academic libraries that actually help students as much as possible, or putting those taking barriers away from people who maybe have them, but the rest of us do not, and we take it for granted. So I think that I think that was the biggest thing for my education, was I felt like everything actually mattered, and we were talking about real people and real things that we would come up against.
Great, thanks, Amanda. We have run up on our time, so I'm not going to be able to put the rest of the questions to the speakers, but we'll record those, and I'll send them out to the speakers, and we'll get some responses that we can post when we publish the video, so that information can be made available to you, because there are some good questions in here that I think deserve answering. So that is all that we have for questions and this panel. I want to thank all of you for joining us today for the first session of the Library and Information Science Student Voices Global Peer-to-Peer Dialogue. As I mentioned earlier, this session is recorded and will be available on social media with BSLISE and IFLA set accounts. Please feel free to share the recording. I wanted to say thank you to all those who helped to organize this project. To all those who helped to organize this project, to the BSLISE members, and a special thank you to the IFLA professional support officers who helped us with the Zoom setup for the meeting. Let us go forth and develop an international network for LIS students to share experiences and perspectives and connect the local to the global. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and please look for announcements about our next session coming up in June.